Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on our Facebook Live about temporary outdoor dining permits. We're excited for this new program, and we hope that it will enable businesses to keep going through the wintertime, especially restaurants and small retail businesses. We understand that COVID has been an extremely hard situation for our small business community, and we want you all to know that we take this very seriously and that we've been working as diligently as possible to make sure that you're taken care of. So with that, we've prepared a presentation for you to just run over the basics of what this program looks like and how the city is here to assist you. And with that, we also have members from Building Services. We have Ken Anderson with us. We have Jason Bueller from the fire department, and we have Shelly Finan from Real Estate Services, who will be able to answer any questions that you might have after the presentation. So with that, we can just go ahead and get started. It will be pretty quick. And then any questions you have, go ahead and put them in the chat box and we can get to them at the end of the presentation. Sorry about that. I think I have to go and start it over. Okay, so again, this is for Salt Lake City's temporary outdoor dining program to allow for expansion and winterization. So what does the program entail? This program, it's intended to more easily facilitate expansion of outdoor seating for businesses. There are multiple types of permits that may be needed. And just so you know, all temporary structures must be erected for less than 180 days. So outdoor business activities, this refers to any retail or restaurant activity, including retail sales, retail services, outdoor dining that would typically occur inside a building or a structure, but is operating outside and adjacent to the anchor business. So again, adjacent, not actually constructed to the building. Temporary structures, partially walled, no more than 2 walls, or roof structures, which are intended to be used for limited duration for outdoor business activities. And these structures include tents, freestanding canopies, awnings, patio coverings, and other similar structures. And I'm sure several of you have seen examples of this out of places like New York City and also Denver, where this has previously been implemented. So let's get into the types of permits. So the temporary business permit will be required for temporary structures in the public right-of-way. So that's going to be sidewalks and parking spaces to extend outdoor dining. So if you have questions about that, that's why we have Shelly with us from Real Estate Services. She can answer questions for that. The temporary use permit, this is going to be required for temporary structures over 200 square feet on private property, in private property. So if you have a parking lot that is private, that's part of your lot, that's great. You can extend outdoor dining. And again, that's only for structures over 200 square feet. So if you're under that, the permit is waived. You will require an operational fire permit for structures over 400 square feet in size. So if you're under that, again, you won't need that operational fire permit. The DABC license extension is going to be required if you plan to serve alcohol for any type of outdoor dining on public or private property. And then, sorry, let me go back. My screen is a little funky. So the building permit will be required for temporary structures that will be erected longer than 180 days or permanent structures. So if you're planning on building something that's actually going to come out from the building rather than being adjacent to it, you will need to go through the regular permit process. If you have questions about that and what that entails, Ken Anderson will be able to answer questions on that. So the fees, temporary business permit, it's $9 a month for 5 tables or less, and $11 a month for 6 tables or more. The temporary use permit, you're looking at $265. And then the operational fire permit is $173 plus $1 for each additional temporary structure. So that's going to be $173 on the onset, and then $1 for every additional temporary structure that you have erected. So temporary business permits in the right-of-way, just a couple of general guidelines here. All customers and staff must adhere to all mandatory Utah Department of Health and DABC standards, applicable laws and regulations. No outdoor business activities shall encroach upon any part of the sidewalk frontage of any adjacent property without written permission from the adjacent property owners or tenants. Temporary structures over 200 square feet will require a temporary use permit, and over 400 square feet will require an operational fire permit. Outdoor business operations are required to provide commercial general liability insurance that meets or exceeds the minimums set by Salt Lake City, and anything placed in the right-of-way must be removed at the close of business each day. All temporary business permits will expire automatically after 180 days. So we do require site plans for building frontage on outdoor dining areas. This is an example of what that looks like for the frontage. So really, we're looking for you to locate any obstacles, trees, grates, bicycle racks, fire hydrants adjacent to the front of your business. Measure 10 feet from that obstacle to propose outdoor business area. If there are no obstacles, then just go ahead and measure 10 feet from the curb to the proposed business area. At the 10-foot mark, place painter tape down along the width of the building frontage. This is the width of the outdoor business area. And then place painter's tape down perpendicular from the edge of the building frontage to meet the width. And this is the length of the outdoor business area. For existing temporary business permits, these are still valid for 180 days. If you already permitted and are just seeking an extension, go ahead and send an email to real_estate@slcgov.com with an updated insurance document, the intended site plan with all changes, if that's applicable, and the requested extension. And then please just make sure that you're looking at the Utah COVID-19 Transmission Index guidelines to make sure that you've got those requirements covered. So the next is our temporary use permit. So this is going to be required for use of temporary structures over 200 square feet on private property. So again, just keep that 200 in mind. And if you're under that, it's kind of like, go for it. It's going to be a little bit of an easier route for you unless you're doing something big that's over 200 square feet. So for that, the site plan and structural calculations will be required. Temporary structures shall be located in a rear or interior side yard only and adjacent to the principal business. Outdoor business activities shall be located a minimum of 10 feet from a property line is in a residential zoning district. And all customers and staff must adhere to all mandatory Utah Department of Health and DABC standards, applicable laws and regulations. And the businesses, you are responsible for snow removal and maintenance around outdoor dining areas. For the operational fire permit, this is only required if you have a structure that's over 400 square feet. The structure can only have one or more sides. Required also for temporary structures that are open on all sides over 700 square feet. No temporary structure is intended to be in place for longer than 180 days. And most importantly, no heaters with open flames are allowed within any temporary structure in Salt Lake City. So with that, obviously people need to stay warm when they're outside. So if you are planning on using a propane heater or another type of heater, the temporary structure must have the California State Fire Marshal's flame retardant certification seal visibly displayed on the tent or the canopy. And this is an example of what that looks like. So that is going to be required again if you have propane or another type of heater in the temporary structure. So for lights and heat, lights and heaters plugged into outdoor electrical outlets don't need any permits. However, the cords cannot be run to an indoor outlet, and cords must be designed for outdoor use. No heaters with open flames are allowed with any tent or canopy. Just to reiterate that. Only approved temporary heaters may be used to blow heat into the tent using approved duct systems. Propane cannot be stored or used inside the tent, and propane cylinders must be properly stored, secured, and protected. So for the DABC license extension, again, this is going to happen through the state. So you have to work with your DABC compliance officer to extend the liquor license if you want to serve alcohol in your outdoor dining. The DABC will require Salt Lake City local consent. So you will need a letter from us, and you can do that by emailing us with your extension of insurance and the site plan. So then DABC will also require an extension of insurance and the site plan, and then their temporary license extension application as well. So we recommend that you contact the compliance officer as soon as you decide to apply with Salt Lake City in order to inform them that the liquor license extension will also be coming. The DABC license extension, we do have it marked here, and we're going to make this information public so that you have access to these links as well. But please note that the DABC license extensions currently will automatically expire on January 1st, 2021. So if you already have one, you do need to be planning ahead for that extension with DABC. So with that, if you have any general questions about the program, you are more than welcome to email the Department of Economic Development. That's going to be ed@slcgov.com. And we will make sure that if you have questions about code or anything like that, we're pointing you in the right direction, whether that's with real estate services or building services, or with the fire department. So with that, let's see if we have any questions. Okay, so we do actually have a couple of questions coming through our Facebook audience about why the fees aren't being waived. So with that, maybe we'll just go around. We'll start with Ken with building services. He can talk about why the building services fees aren't being waived at this point, and then we'll go to Jason and then also to Shelley.
Hi, this is Ken. I honestly am not part of that decision-making process as far as waiving the fees. So I apologize, but that's not my forte.
Hi, this is Jason with the fire department. I actually the fire department was fine with us waiving those fees. I asked that same question to the city. The response I received was that we have to do a public benefit analysis before we can get the city council to approve the waiving of the fees. So they said they're working on it. As of right now, the fire department has no intention of charging the fees. It's just city protocols at this point. We're working on getting that fixed.
Shelley, you are muted.
Okay, sorry about that. This is Shelley Finan with Real Estate Services. We are actually prorating our fees. Normally it's, I think it's $116 or $111 a year. So we're actually prorating it month by month. Like Liesl said, it's $9 for 5 tables or less a month and $11 for 6 or more tables. There is a state code that does not, that requires the city charge fair market value for any use of city property. So we are regulated by state code.
Thanks, everyone. And like Jason pointed out, it is something that we're looking into. There is public process that we have to go through with community council to do that public benefit analysis, but stay tuned and hopefully we'll be able to find a solution that works for everyone. So our next question is, wouldn't adding more air filters make better sense? And I'm wondering if maybe Jason wants to talk about this one. I'm not sure if they're talking about air filters in a building or a tent, but either Jason or Ken wants to take that.
I'm assuming in this case, they're referring to inside the building. And I don't think that adding filters would hurt, but based on requirements of set forth by the health department and I believe the mayor, that is not going to fix the problem. That's not the reason why, additional filters would not make it so that we can add additional people into the facility. So in this case, that's not an option as far as allowing us to be able to give you more options as far as inside. Hopefully that'll answer your question.
Yeah, I have nothing to add on air filters. There's no fire codes on air filters, so I apologize.
Thank you both. And again, to Ken's point, so we do still have to follow the person per square foot requirement that the state health department has. And so that's why we're allowing the expansion outside so that you do have room for more guests. But again, the air filters still don't make up for the fact that we can only have a certain amount of people per square foot in a building. So our next question, it looks like, okay, so this will be for fire and building services. So a tent would only be allowed to have walls on two sides. So that's the question. And how does that work with the igloos that people have seen? So I know we have them in Park City, we've seen them in Denver, and Washington, D.C. has them. So how does that look for Salt Lake City?
Sure. As far as tents with the amount of walls, for this fire code has been put in place for years. This is something we do. What we've built this standard off of is what we've been doing for years, essentially. So that's the reason we have the specification on walls. For the purposes of what we're trying to do under this program, I'm assuming every tent will have 4 walls. The idea is to create a warm space for people to use during the winter months. So while we specified the walls, that was strictly just because that's what we do. We just built on what we've already been doing. As far as the igloos go, those obviously have the essentially the equivalent of 4 walls, so they will meet the same parameters. The thing that's important on this is, as people are interested in this program, they submit a site plan. The fire department will get that site plan, we'll review it. Essentially what we're worried about is how it relates, how this tent or the igloo or whatever you're doing is, where it is in relation to the building, where it is in relation to existing fire department connections, fire hydrants on the street. Our biggest concern is blocking any life safety tools or appliances that we use for a regular structure fire. That's our involvement on that. On top of that, we want to make sure that every tent or igloo has the appropriate safe egress points so that if there is an issue, we can get people out without causing any anybody getting trampled or anybody getting blocked up at a exit point. So I hope that answers your question. Then we're planning on 4 walls on a tent. We will review it for safety purposes. We'll make sure that it has everything it needs to meet the life safety requirements. Let me know if that doesn't answer the question.
I can add a little bit more, I believe. The reasoning for only allowing 2 walls on a tent is for ventilation purposes. An igloo, in my assumption, would not create the amount of ventilation that would be required in order to consider it outdoor.
Okay, great. Thank you both for that. So we do have another question about the city running any promotional campaigns to encourage outdoor dining. That promotion would actually be running through my department with economic development. And we do have our Facebook page, we've got LinkedIn, we have Instagram, and we will be running a marketing campaign to assist with spreading the word about the availability of the program. We also have a guidebook. It's in a PDF format that will take you through the process. It outlines everything, and then if you require a site plan, it also gives descriptions and examples of what that looks like. And then, of course, we're all here to assist with any questions that you have on that. As far as any sort of potential, like, I guess, like partnerships or other things of that sort, we haven't been able to determine whether or not we're able to assist with that. But again, we will have a marketing campaign behind this to get the word out to our business community. Okay, so we do have another question. Can you walk us through who is eligible for this program? So this is going to be for small retailers and restaurants. Those are going to be the two that we think are going to use it the most. I can't think of anyone else who would really benefit from outdoor dining unless Ken could possibly think of somebody. But I know that the program was initially created really to help our restaurants be able to continue to stay open and to serve their customer population during this time.
I believe you covered it well, Lisa. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to our next question. There are some temporary structures that are not easily removed at the close of business day, and would these not be allowed to be used then? So Ken, do you want to take that one and kind of talk about maybe what's the easiest thing to pop up and put down?
That's a tough one. You know what? I apologize. Could you please repeat that question?
Yeah, so they're concerned that there's some structures that are not easy to take down at the end of the day. And I know this is going to be required for structures that are in the public right of way. So if it's on public property, they can keep it up overnight. But with Shelley's concern in real estate services, they do have to take it down if it's in a parklet or if it's going to be on the sidewalk. So I think they're just trying to see maybe if there's some suggestions, what would be easy to take down and what not, and what happens if they leave the temporary structure up overnight.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that clarification. I am not aware of any specific products that are out there that are easy up, easy down. I know there are a lot of products available, but as Lisa stated, they're only required to come down if they're in the public way. And boy, I wish I had a good answer for that, but I'm not familiar with all of the products that are available. There might be something out there, especially in this pandemic. There are a lot of creative minds out there. So hopefully somebody has come up with some good products that will work and meet the requirements. I do want to make one more comment based on the previous question about igloos. And again, if the igloo is under 200 square feet, it is not required to have a permit. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
Lisa, can I just add on to that?
Please. Yes, please do, Shelley. I was about to call on you.
So we do have a permanent permit that a lot of the outdoor dining businesses do have, which allow for permanent barricades, and they're allowed to leave their tables and chairs out there. It's a much more expensive permit, but if you do want a permanent outdoor dining, that would require a different application. You do have to go through the DRT process, but we're trying to streamline this process for temporary patios and make the fee a lot less expensive. Therefore, it does require that they remove their tables and chairs and tents daily.
Thanks, Shelley. And I appreciate you pointing out that we really are trying to streamline this process, which is why we're asking for the structures to be taken down at the end of the day, because as Shelley pointed out, it is more expensive to have the permanent structure permit. And we really just want you guys to be able to get out and run your business and get this up and going. So it looks like, Jason, do you want to go ahead and make your comment on tents not being moved at the end of the day?
So the fire department doesn't have any requirements for tents being moved at the end of the day. How we do these is basically if the tent has been permitted, it stays up for the duration of the permit. But it sounds like other departments are requiring it if it's in the public way. One possible solution is if you have an area that is not in the public way, would be a perfect way to maintain that tent up for the duration of the permit, such as your own parking lot or anything that is out of the public way. So we're fully aware that some areas of the city are going to be far more suited for this, where other areas may not be. Some areas are more closely, densely built with public way sidewalks right in front. Your options may be limited. We understand that, and this isn't the perfect one size fits all solution. But like I said, that site plan, if you submit it, we'll do our best to find ways that we can make it work for you individually.
Perfect. So Ken, I have another question for you, and it's just pretty general. So what can be set up without a permit?
Any structure that's not attached to the building, 200 square foot or less, whether it's on private property or it does extend into the public way. Again, if it extends into the public way, that will have to be able to be moved back and in the evenings. So that's about the best I can do as far as that goes. If it is under 200 square feet, or rather 200 square feet and less, then we will accept that without any kind of a permit.
Perfect. Yeah. Like we keep saying, it's just to make it as easy as possible to get these structures up and get people outside dining. So
Liesl, if I could add to that. So even if it is a non-permitted structure and we find that there is a open flame or an unsafe way of heating that non-permitted under 200 square foot tent or igloo, fire code does still come into effect in that. So even if it is a non-permitted structure, we still, if we find an unsafe for life safety situation going on, we'll have to address it. The fire department will have to address it.
great. Thank you so much for clarifying that, Jason. I appreciate it.
And I would just like to add one
Yes.
other thing. Even though you don't need a building permit for 200 square feet or less, you do still need to go through real estate services to get the temporary business permit.
Perfect. Thanks, Shelley. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have another question. So can these patios be used for standing areas, games, movies, broadcast sports? Do we have any sort of regulation on what they can and can't be used for? And I would like to say no, not that I am aware of, as long as you're keeping to the standard of, the 200 square feet or larger. It has to be permitted, and then keeping up as well with the Department of Health guidelines. So that's where it's going to be really important for businesses to review those guidelines and what can and can't occur in a space. You want to make sure that you still have enough space to keep people socially distanced, and that you're not occupying, that you don't have more people occupying what the state is permitting. So there's actually nothing on our end that stops you from having, let's say, cocktail tables, standing room, anything like that, unless I'm incorrect on that. Nope, getting head shakes from everyone. So sounds like we're good to go on that one. It looks like there's another question. Are there any requirements for businesses that allow recorded or ambient music or televised sports on the expanded outdoor patio? Ken, I think this is going to go to you, but I believe that we still have, or it could go to Shelley, we still have regulation on sound at some point. Like if it's becoming a public nuisance, then that could actually be reported to Salt Lake City, and we can technically close your business or your outdoor dining down if that's the case. But if somebody wants to correct me on that, if I'm wrong, I'm more than happy.
I know that the city does have a noise ordinance. I don't remember what the ordinance number is, but if I remember correctly, you can only have certain decibels as far as music or whatever speaker sound you're providing. And I believe the noise ordinance goes, you're allowed to have music until 10 o'clock p.m. Is that correct?
That sounds right. So
I
there
also
is,
know the health department has a noise ordinance, and I believe theirs goes until 11 p.m. if I remember correctly.
that sounds right. So I don't know if Ken or Jason, anyone else has anything to add to that.
I don't have anything to add. We don't generally regulate that one from our office. However, I do want to mention a couple of things. Civil enforcement could potentially enforce on businesses that are violating this requirement, even on structures under 200 square feet, as Jason alluded to with the fire. With that said, also there's one thing I kind of misstated, and that was if there's any structure under 200 square feet, it did not require a permit. That is specifically for the structure itself. If there are heating elements or lighting, anything of that nature that are going to be tied in other than an extension cord, they would require a permit.
Okay, that's good to know. And that, I believe, also answers question 9, which is that are there any requirements for businesses that allow recorded or ambient music or televised sports? Or sorry, that is the question we just answered. I'm looking at if it's possible to have live entertainment, amplified sound, or other types of entertainment in the original space. So what Ken just said about the extension cords, that's going to be that has to be taken into consideration. So how are you going to plug in? Is it going into the building? Because that is currently not allowed under this permit. So you would have to go through a standard permit for that. And again, we need to be conscientious of Salt Lake City's noise ordinance as well for that. So just be aware that if you are offering that type of entertainment, civil enforcement could come if there's a complaint. And then of course, to be looking at the Utah Health Department guidelines as well to make sure that you're not overdoing it on the amount of people in your space, and also to look at their noise ordinance as well. And it's all outlined. We have links to that in our manual. Okay. Oh, this is a great question. So Ken, this is going to be for you. Would businesses have to add outdoor bathroom units if they didn't want to open their in-restaurant bathrooms?
That would be yes, and I don't know how they would do that. One thing we did go over was with this opportunity, we would not require them to add additional restrooms for the additional occupant load that would be under this structure. But if you're not allowing patrons to use your inside restroom, that could become a real problem, and we probably would not be able to allow that to be permitted. You'd have to show us a plan how to make that work that meets code compliance.
Great, thanks for answering that. Okay, so then this will be for the 3 of you. Can I modify my approved application as things change over time? So I think what they're asking is, so they apply once for a permit. Will they have to reapply if they make any changes to a structure, if they're adding or expanding anything? How does that look for them?
The answer is yes, absolutely. Any changes made, modifications to a permitted structure will always require revisions, a change in permit. Again, unless it's under 200 square feet, and whatever they're doing is not required by permit.
I would just like to add that our previous temporary patio permits expired October 31st. So if you are going to reapply for a temporary patio permit under this new proclamation, you will need to apply for a new permit. And then if you do make any changes over time from that permit, you can request an amendment to your existing permit with real estate services.
And that could be a relatively easy process depending on how significant the changes to your existing structure is. So from a fire department standpoint, if you're just making a couple tweaks, shouldn't be an issue. If it's a major change or a major addition, we just need a site plan and have an inspector go over it and look at the plan, give the approval or some suggestions on how you could get the approval.
Great. Thanks everyone for those answers. So the next question is the risk of transmission lower for outdoor dining compared to indoor dining? And for that, I'm going to refer you guys to the Utah Department of Health website and what they have to say about outdoor dining, because none of us are actually health experts here. So I will say that if we thought there may be an issue with it, we probably wouldn't have moved forward with the program. But the mayor feels comfortable with it, staff feels comfortable with it. And so obviously the state of Utah has not said anything about it since this has been happening in other cities. So please look at the health department webpage to see what the rules and restrictions are there and if they have any information on that. So the next question is, what types of right of way will restaurants and bars be able to use? So Shelley, I'm going to pass that over to you.
That would include, any of the right of ways that you're using for outdoor dining. So from back of curb to the front of your business. Again, like Jason pointed out, this may not work for every business depending on the density level where you're at in the city, but basically it's going to be, whatever right of way that is allowable for outdoor businesses and restaurants in front of their businesses.
Great. And then Shelley, I actually have another question that came in for you. So how will you handle it if a city project or a private development project has already pulled a right-of-way permit for a particular area or location?
I'm just trying to, let's see, how will you handle a city project? I mean, if there's already a permit pulled for that right of way, then we would not be able to duplicate permits.
Okay, that is good to know. So no duplicate permits being allowed at this time or really ever. The next question that we're looking at is, so Jason, this will be for you. What is allowed for heating outdoor dining areas and what is the required inspection from the fire department?
All right, so other cities around the country, they do this often. So basically any heating, there's a couple different ways you can do it, but the big point is we don't want any open flames, right? So that's like one of those construction torpedo heaters that shoots a 1 foot, 2 foot flame out the front of it. That just creates obviously some problems for the fire department. There are plenty of other propane heaters that you can use that do not produce flames, where it just produces heat. Or another common way to do is you have your heater unit outside the tent with some sort of a, for a lack of a better word, some plumbing that takes it into the tent, like some sort of a tube and a blower that pushes the heat into the tent. So there's options out there. The best way I would recommend to do this is to talk with some of the tent companies that set these up and provide this service. They can give you all the direction on your heating options or what's out there, what might suit your needs. So hopefully that answers your question. Oh, as far as the inspection, fire inspector, once you have your heating, if it's just a tent, it's usually we can approve it just by looking at the site plan, and then we'll swing by real quick just to see if it's built the way that the site plan showed. If there's a heater involved, it's a little more The fire inspector will come and make a more thorough check to make sure that everything's safe, that it's vented properly, that your heating equipment's put in the appropriate place, that there's no obvious life safety. And like I said earlier, one of our biggest concerns is blocking fire hydrants and fire department connections to buildings. So as soon as you start putting tents or heater units outside, the last thing we want is for those sitting in front of something that we need to get a fire hose to connect to a building.
Perfect. Thanks, Jason. So Shelley, I have another question that has come in for you. So what is the requirement for snow removal in an outdoor dining area that is currently in the right of way?
Actually, I think that would be more for, is it building services? That I'm not sure, because we don't get involved with the snow removal. If I remember correctly, with our regular outdoor dining permits, they need at least 3 feet around obstacles to be able to get their snow plows in. Ken or Erin, if you know any differently, I think it was 3 feet clearance.
I don't know the answer to that. We, generally speaking, don't deal it the public way. That's handled through our engineering department. So I honestly don't know what those requirements are.
Well, that is something that we will jot down and look into and provide in our information, because that is an excellent question. So stay tuned for more information on that. We'll make sure to have that in our promotional materials and also on our website with information. Okay, the next question that has come in is if we're reaching out to businesses to let them know about the outdoor dining expansion aside from this Facebook Live event. And I mentioned this before, but we are. So we've been posting about this on our Instagram page, LinkedIn, Facebook as well. It's coming through economic development. So if you're not following those pages, I highly suggest Instagram. It's definitely the most up to date. And then as well, we are going to be sending this to our listserv of businesses that we have current contact information for. So it is coming. You'll see a PDF document that walks you through the process, and that also has hyperlinks to the correct applications, and then as well has our contact information in case you have any questions. So that will be coming. So for our last question, where do I go to apply to find more information? So the best place to go right now is slc.gov/ed. So that's going to be the Salt Lake City government page, and that's economic development, and that's where you will find more information about this program. And then again, if you're part of our listserv, you'll be seeing an email come out shortly, and you can find information through Facebook and our Instagram page. So I think that's it for the webinar. I think that was very successful. I really appreciate Ken and Jason and Shelley for being with us today, and all of the hard work that your departments have put in to this effort as well. And again, to our business community, I want you to know that we're here for you. We're trying so hard to make sure that you guys are able to stay in business this winter and ride out COVID. And if there's anything at all that we can do for you, please ask. Just go ahead and send us an email, and we will be happy to look into your inquiries and assist you as best we can. So thanks, everybody. Have a great Thursday, and I appreciate everyone for participating today.